Zohran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar. Democrats must recognize that Zohran Mamdani is the future of the party. Unfortunately, it's the Republican Party. Get it? And if you missed his victory speech in last week's mayoral election in New York, don't worry. You'll see it in every attack ad for the next 2 years.
Bill Maher has never been shy about calling out political nonsense. But this time, he cuts through the noise with a level of clarity that hits both sides like a brick. His latest takedown of woke progressive fantasy and figures like Zohran Mamdani isn't just sharp, it's devastating. Maher exposes exactly why this shiny ideological storytelling collapses the moment it meets reality. And trust me, this breakdown hits harder than any campaign slogan the progressives have ever tried selling.
Gen Z thinks socialism's wired and capitalism's tired and billionaires are what's for dinner. And who can blame them? If you're 30 and still sharing a bathroom with roommates, capitalism isn't working for you. People will reject any economic system where there's strange hair on the soap. It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening. Zohran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar.
Zohran Mamdani promises big dreams, but dreams can't pay the rent, and Maher knows it. Zohran can't grant political wishes any more than democratic socialism can. These glossy profiles and utopian speeches look great on posters until you flip them over and see the warnings in fine print. Politicians can romanticize utopia all they want, but municipal budgets don't care about vibes. When Mamdani's victory speech already sounds like a GOP attack ad, you know voters saw the red flags. The progressive fairy tale may sparkle on stage, but under fluorescent reality, potholes, payrolls, and basic math, it falls apart every single time.
Democrats must recognize that Zohran Mamdani is the future of the party. Unfortunately, it's the Republican Party. Get it? And if you missed his victory speech in last week's mayoral election in New York, don't worry. You'll see it in every attack ad for the next 2 years. Mamdani seems like a nice guy, and I congratulate him on an extraordinary political achievement. But before the whole left side of the country catches socialism fever, let's listen to the other big winner in last Tuesday's election, Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, who, before the 24 election, said things like, "If the party didn't shift to the center, we will get f***ing torn apart. And we need to never use the word socialist or socialism ever again."
Zohran Mamdani, being presented as the future of the Democratic Party while producing GOP-ready soundbites, is basically political self-sabotage. When your victory speech reads like a late-night manifesto, you're not energizing moderates. You're handing Republicans 2 years of campaign ads already gift-wrapped. This kind of performative radicalism doesn't win swing districts. It pushes them directly into the opposition's hands. And Maher's central point remains unchallenged. Moderates win in Trump districts because they speak to persuadable voters, not to an ideological choir.
At least the party has a clear choice here, very clear. One wing is saying don't ever use the word socialist again, and one is saying,
I am a democratic socialist.
Clear, huh? So how do we decide who's right? Well, it turns out we don't really have to flip a coin. We have the evidence. In 2024, 13 Democrats won in districts Trump also won, all moderates. This isn't rocket science. All the left-leaning think tanks have done autopsies on 2024, and they all came up with the same message: move to the center.
Maher's point is painfully simple. Those 13 Democrats who flipped or held Trump districts didn't do it through magic. They did it through moderation. They didn't run purity tests or chase social media applause. They ran practical, centrist campaigns that addressed real frustrations instead of floating abstract theories while voters are dealing with cold showers and mystery hairs on their soap. Until progressives address the real world instead of the academic version of it, the center will always win.
If you're 30 and still sharing a bathroom with roommates, capitalism isn't working for you. People will reject any economic system where there's a strange hair on the soap.
Capitalism is flawed. Everyone knows that. But it reliably delivers the basic dignity people want: private bathrooms, personal space, clean towels, predictable results. Ideology doesn't do that. And when everyday life becomes miserable, voters don't sprint toward theoretical revolutions. They choose the system that still works. That's why Poland's market reforms succeeded, while Venezuela's 21st century socialism crumbled into chaos. If any system wants voter loyalty, it should start by making sure no one has to share shampoo with a roommate.
In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century, or any century, a f***ing mess.
Poland and Venezuela show the contrast in high definition. Strong institutions, open markets, and rule of law create stability. State-controlled romanticism, sold as a shortcut to prosperity, eventually hollows everything out. 21st century socialism is only appealing until real-world logistics show up. Just like a dating profile that looks nothing like the person who arrives at the cafe. And when single-payer experiments collapse before they even scale to one state, let alone a nation of 340 million, voters don't remember the lofty speeches. They remember the wait times, the rationing, and why reading the fine print always matters.
Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week.
Democratic socialism looks charming in campaign posters, sweeping promises, emotional vibes, poetic slogans. But reality hits fast when the dream system can't pay the utilities bill. Vermont's failed single-payer experiment proved that math always wins. Bernie's national version may sound noble, but ignoring costs isn't policy, it's political catfishing. Bernie, AOC, and Mamdani proudly embrace the democratic socialist label, but voters consistently reward grounded ideas with funding plans, footnotes, and proposals that survive contact with reality.
Bernie, AOC, Mamdani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're democratic socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet. I don't think people realize we already have a lot of socialism.
Sure, Bernie, AOC, and Zohran can proudly lean into their socialist branding. But swing voters already juggle high bills, government paperwork, and economic anxiety. They're not looking for a revolution. They want stability. Pitching ideological rebranding instead of practical solutions forces voters into an identity test they never signed up for. And when people are exhausted by both MAGA chaos and progressive government-run grocery store fantasies, they gravitate toward candidates who sound practical, not performative.
You think you're going to win an election on that? This just seems like more extremism at a time when Americans are begging both parties, please, could just one of you act normal? It's either defund the police or military in the streets. Either MAGA's crypto crony capitalism or city-run grocery stores. No, I don't want that. I want a Democrat who reassures me if you like your Whole Foods, you can keep your Whole Foods.
Radical swings, left or right, make for great punchlines, but terrible governance. Telling suburban voters their choices are armed patrols or city-run grocery stores guarantees you'll lose them. Most people want competence, normalcy, and stability, not a revolution, not a rerun, not a lifestyle statement. When Mamdani and the far left offer vibes instead of workable policy, moderates tune out instantly. And if your message can't reassure voters that their Whole Foods, their paycheck, and their sense of stability are safe, you've already lost the room. Winning elections is about holding that room.
You know, Chuck Schumer ain't perfect, but at least he doesn't crumple into a heap when confronted with Chanel number 5.
Maher's critique resonates because it strips away the fantasy. It highlights how figures like Zohran Mamdani push ideological theater instead of the centrist competence that actually wins elections, especially in Trump districts. Again and again, moderates deliver results because voters reward stability, not purity tests. Economic reality, global case studies, and failed socialist experiments all point to the same truth. Democratic socialist promises collapse when they collide with budgets, institutions, or basic expectations like safety and functioning grocery stores. The progressive wing may craft beautiful rhetoric, but voters aren't searching for poetry. They're searching for people who can keep the lights on. And in 2025, that still matters more than ever.